All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Come on. You can do it. Don't touch the mic.
Gotta touch the mic. I want to touch the mic.
You're fresh.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Plattekill GOP. Thank you for everyone, all the legislators, all the speakers, all the supporters. It's been amazing. It's been humbling. What a ride this has been. We are on a rescue mission. We are in a battle for the heart and soul of our country. And each and every one of us is involved in it. On November 5th, I believe the silent majority is awake and we are coming for our country back. We are going to do this together. I come up here, this is a phenomenal event, and I'm very honored to have been asked to speak in. And I didn't know when I came up here I was going to run into a childhood friend who I grew up with. Mike Caruso is here, he's in the crowd, and it's fantastic, and it's a small world, and I love being a representative, or vying for being a representative of the Hudson Valley, because this is an amazing area. Okay, so we are living in an upside-down time. A time where we know, or what we know, to be bad, they're not only telling us is good, but somehow virtuous. We're living in a time where our police are public enemy number one. We are living in a time where our seniors are worried about making ends meet, because Social Security is taxed, inflation is through the roof. We are living in a time where illegal immigrants are being put before United States hard-working, tax-paying citizens. We are living in an upside-down time. For those of you who don't know my background, I was a New York City cop for 25 years. I loved my job and my cops more than my next breath of air. But the city, the state, and the country that I loved went upside down. And I had no choice but to walk away from the job that I love and the cops that I loved more than my next breath of air. And why? Because while I was in the summer of love, mostly peaceful protests in 2020, aka riots, while my cops were in vans and Molotov cocktails were being thrown into the vans with them in it, while I had to cut the pant legs off of cops because they were on fire due to incendiary devices that were thrown at us, I myself got hit in the head with a kitchen cabinet that came off the roof. 72 hours. 2 weeks, 3 weeks of riots, but 72 hours was like Braveheart. Charge and retreat, charge and retreat. And while we were dealing with that, my opponent, Pat Ryan, was up here marching with BLM and the Defund the Police people. When he was the Ulster County executive, he made Ulster County a sanctuary state, refusing to cooperate with law enforcement and ICE. He even defunded his own SWAT team. He calls weapons, even in the hands of cops, weapons of war. Now, he talks a moderate game, but he is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And we have to make sure that we stand up together and we let him know, thank you for the service to our country, but your service is no longer needed. So I walked away from my officers, my cops, for them. I walked away from my city for it. I walked away to save this state. I ran with Lee Zeldin against Kathy Hochul in the 22 election, and we came up just short. But I made a commitment to the New Yorkers. So 62 counties, upstate, downstate, in the city, out of city. It didn't matter what you looked like, how old you were, what gender you were, what your skin color was, or what God you prayed to. They were saying the same thing. Please help us. We can no longer afford to live here. Please help us. She is attacking our small business. Please help us. I can't afford to harvest the crop that I've planted because of the energy attacks and the EV mandates and the ridiculousness put forth by the Green New Deal people like Pat Ryan. The attack on energy, the attack on common sense. Please help us. I'm not going to see my grandbabies raised in New York because my kids can't afford to live here. Please help us. There's an attack on my children's education. please. I made a commitment to those New Yorkers, and just because we came up just short, that commitment didn't change. I had to figure out how to serve. Well, I grew up in Highland Mills and I live in Goshen. An Orange County native, this is my area. These are my people, and I am going to fight for us. I am sick. I am sick and tired of the other side and the far-left progressives calling us extremists, saying that we are an existential threat to democracy. Meanwhile, they usurped 14 million voters and anointed a queen that didn't receive one vote for the top of the ticket in Washington. And now all of a sudden she's talking about day one? Woman, you're in office 3.5 years. Day one was 3.5 years ago, and you have destroyed a country. You stood idly by and actually bailed out the rioters in 2020. You opened up our border. You stood by Joe Biden when he made that disastrous decision to pull out of Afghanistan the way he did, and 13 service members died because of it. You were the last woman in the room. You were proud of that. You own this failure. You own each and every failure of the Biden-Harris administration since day one. We are standing up. You opened up a border. 300 known terrorists crossed our southern border in fiscal year 2023 alone. That's who we caught. There are 2 million gotaways. 400 known terrorists in the same fiscal year from our northern border. Ladies and gentlemen, the farther we get from September 11th, the closer we are to September 10th. They are here. They are here. We have lost our footing on the world stage. I don't believe that Russia is emboldened to attack and invade Ukraine if we had a stronger administration. I don't believe the atrocities, the terrorist attacks, the sexual atrocities that happened on October 7th in Israel happened under a stronger administration. For God's sake, we were close to peace in the Middle East under the former administration. This is about our freedom. This is about our constitutional rights that shall not be infringed, that they are trying to take away at every step. They will attack our rights. They will attack us owning guns. They will call them weapons of war to elicit responses of emotion. Let me tell you something. You could put a grenade launcher in my hand. No one is getting hurt. We have a heart problem in this country. We have a mental illness problem in this country. It is not a gun problem. It is not a gun problem. This is our time, and I need you to create a sense of urgency. I believe that in this country, we have been concentrating far too much on what divides us and not what unites us as Americans. We are the greatest country in the history of the world, and it's about damn time we stood up and stopped apologizing for American excellence. That flag is the greatest flag in the history of the world. Our time. We have been silenced. Years ago, Democrats and Republicans may disagree on how to get there, but at the end of the day, the goal was the same: to put their people first, put our country first, to do what's right for America. Now we have a far-left faction that apologizes for American excellence, that apologizes for the country that we are, that puts our citizens last, and that actually puts forth curriculum to our students that pits one child against another child, that teaches them to hate our country. And the worst is it teaches them to hate themselves for who they are, what they look like, and where they come from, and that is unacceptable. Every American child deserves access to quality education, and you as a parent should be involved as possible in their education. I have amazing teacher friends, amazing friends that I grew up with in life and in career. And the big joke was always, if you fail, I get them as a cop, so do your job. But the curriculum that's put forth is unacceptable. We need to be doing more. You do not relinquish your right as a parent simply by sending your child to school. And this Proposition 1, this equal rights proposition, show of hands for anybody who's heard of it. Anybody? Wow, okay. And that's by design. There is a Proposition 1 that the Democrats have named an Equal Rights Amendment. Will change the New York State Constitution, and it is on the ballot this November. I need you to spread the word.
Are you interested in
It
getting
has
involved in
nothing
the
to
race
do.
at all?
If they say it will enshrine abortion
Give my contact
into our
info, I can just take yours
Constitution.
real quick.
Doesn't even mention abortion. Okay? It says you can't be discriminated based on outcome of pregnancies,
Put your
which nobody
contact
would know
information in.
anyway.
I'm going to have a bunch of volunteers.
And abortion is codified in New York State well beyond the protections of Roe. What this amendment does is it paves the way for illegals to vote in our election. It paves the way for boys to play in girls' sports and be in their locker rooms. And it paves the way to schools giving gender-affirming care to your child without your knowledge or your consent. Turn over the ballot and vote no, and let everyone else know to do it as well. This is a battle for our children.
Yeah, just shoot me a text.
So here's where the sense of urgency is. I have some great candidates behind me. I have wonderful elected leadership. The candidates now, we have Jack and Pat. In Albany, we have a super majority. Okay? That means Kathy Hochul doesn't even have to work with us. They don't have to listen. They don't have to come to the negotiating table. Nothing. We have to break the super majority in Albany. That's how we start to get our state back. And that's by getting these guys in. There is a bill being floated in either the Assembly or the Senate, I'm not sure which one, that will not only allow a school or a teacher to work with your child for gender-affirming care with a doctor who doesn't have to tell the parents and have the insurance company still billing the parents, but code it in a way that you don't even know what was done to your child. We need to break the supermajority. Now, this is the sense of urgency. You are all here, and I am preaching to the choir because every one of you voted. But in New York State, we have forgotten that it is not a right to vote. It is a responsibility and an obligation to vote. This is how we Americans change our country. This is how we Americans save our democracy. It's by participating in it. And we have forgotten that this is not a right, it is a responsibility. If I had a nickel for every time I heard it's a blue state, my vote doesn't count, wrong. It is a red state with blue dots, and our Reds forgot that we have an obligation to show up. And our moderate Democrats have forgotten. They get disingenuous responses from their people, and they sit home. They have to get out. So I need you to talk. I need you to talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues, your co-workers. Jenny down the block who you can't stand, I don't care. It's our time. They trust you. You heard from the candidates. You heard from me. Now you need to get 10 people out to vote. Embrace early voting. It helps. Okay? We can't have the possibility of a blizzard. We can't have the possibility of you getting stuck at work on election day, or the line being so long that you go home because you're dog tired. Every single vote is going to count. I need you to stand up, because if you can be a candidate, fantastic. If you can donate to a candidate, great. If you can donate more, even better. But if you can't, you need to support the candidates. You need to get people out to vote. You need to make phone calls. You need to knock on doors. You need to take lawn signs. You need to take the palm cards. Share our message. Share what you've heard here today. Share the sense of urgency. Like I said, we are in a battle for the heart and soul of our country. But I believe that we Americans are going to stand up. We are going to fight for our country. And if we do everything all in, each and every one of us, leaving it on the field and taking nothing for granted, on November 5th, we go to sleep with hope. And on November 6th, we awake to a new direction in this country, once again being able to look at the faces of our children and our grandchildren and promising what was promised to us, the American dream. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's support. Get everybody out. We will save this country.
And she did it all without touching the money.